The institution of the Cultural Property Protection Officer in the Austrian Armed Forces was created at the beginning of the 70s, after Austria has signed and joined the Hague Convention in 1964. At the beginning of the 70s, some officers invited experienced colleagues from the reserve officers pool to join that institution, and they made the first training seminars for that. And after several years, it came up that we made this institution on a territorial level. That means on each command, territorial command of a federal province, we installed 2 cultural property protection officers. In the beginning, the institution or the task of such an officer was more or less a liaison officer to civil authorities. But more and more it came up that there is a necessity to change in the operational area, and then they moved in the operational department of the commands and became special advisors to their commanders, and also became responsible for training of officers and soldiers.
Absolutely.
After a while, in the beginning of the 80s, 81, the Ministry of Defense edited the first special regulations for cultural property protection officers, which gave a detailed organization and a detailed task of what they have to do or what is intended that they should do. When I can refer to that, today we have in about responsibilities as they are members of the staff on the level of a territorial command in the federal province or at division level or higher. And as I already told, they are advisors to their commanders in matters relating the respect for cultural property within the commander's responsibilities in training for and in executing military actions. And they do it in correspondence with the law and the constitution of the country. Another task is to prepare lists and information about the number and of the cultural property in the area or in the operational area. They keep contact with, as liaison officers, with the head of monument department or of different civil authorities which are responsible for cultural property protection or which are holders of cultural property. And one of his most important tasks is to give the situation report within the command. As such a situation report should give a short presentation of cultural property in the area. It should give a short presentation of the essence of the Hague Convention, because most of the military leaders are not really experienced in that. This is a part which is not mainly be trained to them, so that they should always remember in the obligations they have, or to the obligations they have in to the convention. Then they should also give a short presentation of the content of the ministry's instruction and regulations. And they should give at least suggestions and provisions for excluding cultural property from military operational planning. Can we stop there?
Yeah.
Please speak loud, because I don't
Okay.
hear so good.
Okay. Go ahead.
So one of the questions that I would like to ask you is, why is Austria in this unique situation, or practically unique situation, where the military is so involved in the protection of cultural property during the event of armed conflict? What makes Austria different?
So
What are the historical reasons,
Yeah,
or the
there
social
are
reasons?
several answers to that question. One of those is that we are in an advantage to other countries, because after World War II, we have only a defending army, which is operating or was operating up to today only in their own country. So this is something what makes cultural property protection very easy, because you work in your own country, in your well-known area and your well-known territory, and as the Austrian military defending system was, we had a long time of training in the same area and in the same positions. So we could, can we stop?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we had the good opportunity to do it in our home country. On the other hand, to convince military leaders, which are in fact mostly not very happy with the Hague Convention, because the main task of a military leader is to make national defense or to make military defense, and to deal with the Hague Convention is or always gives restrictions in planning, in action, in all the movement. But one of the main questions was, why do we make national defense? One of these answers was, we have, or we want to keep our national integrity and our territorial integrity. The other was, we want to keep or to protect our people. And one of these answers was also, we want to protect our national heritage and our cultural heritage, because this is one of the fundaments where we live or where we came from.
Can you, would you like to explain to us exactly what the obligations are under the Hague Convention, as you understand them, since you're involved in the instruction of this, and also how the Convention of 1954 is modified by Protocols 1 and 2 of the Convention? What are the importance of each of these individual documents?
Let me come back again to the institution of cultural property protection officers. These are based in the Hague Convention in Article 7. This where we're based on. Article 7 says the high contracting parties undertake to plan or establish in peacetime within their armed forces, services or specialist personnel whose purpose will be to secure respect for cultural property and to cooperate with the civilian authorities responsible for the safeguarding it. So, as it is said here, the main task is to keep respect of cultural property. This could be done in different ways. The one way we go is to do that by this institution. To spread the convention in the armed forces and to make the people aware of the obligations they have by that.
Now, Austria has been obviously involved in peacekeeping operations in former Yugoslavia. In what sort of ways has the policies of your department been implemented? Can you give us some sort of examples of situations that maybe you've run into or that the Austrian military has run into?
This is, let me say, a difficult question, because if you go international, mainly you are influenced or you are based on the rules of engagement which are given by the United Nations or by NATO or by whatever institution you join or you belong to. In that sense, I regret a little bit that generally the rules of engagement don't take care very much in cultural property protection recently. So, for example, we have the first paper or document of the United Nations which directly refers to the cultural property protection. This is a bulletin of Secretary General of the United Nations from August 1999, I think, which is the first time that UN directly refers to the obligations of the Hague Convention. Up to that moment, nobody did take care of that. Now we try to go more and more, or to make more and more, can we stop here?
Sure.
Can I say sensibility, or to create more sensibility in that field?
Sensitivity? To create more sensitivity.
Yeah.
So start out.
Now we try to create more sensitivity in that field, and also to convince our commanders, but they can do it only if the superior commands allow that or take care of that. At the moment, on the international level, it is a little bit difficult, because you have different nations which have, for example, if the lead nation is not partner to the convention, mostly it is out of discussion, or it belongs, you can only do it in your special small area where you're responsible for that. We try to do that in, for example, in Kosovo, and more and more also in other regions where we are engaged.
Can you go into more
or
detail?
involved.
Can you give us any specific examples in Kosovo, or any details you'd like to?
I regret to say that in Kosovo, we were happy that we are not really concerned in that things what happened this March, or March in this year, where the big riots took place. The Austrian sector could be kept more or less free, but not, I would say, it was more by luck than by organized activities we did. And we learned a lot of, one of the main things is that we should take care much more than we did it up to now.
How would you do that?
Let me ask you a different question. Turn the camera off for 1 second.
You asked me how.
About the story that you told before about the Clinton. I'm going to ask you a question. I'd like you to talk before about the story with Hillary Clinton.
For what?
The story with Hillary Clinton. So I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the camera rolling?
Mm-hmm.
During the.
Just stop a second. Clinton declared either some year as the year also of cultural property protection in the United States. Is this true? Or something like that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So during the conflict in Yugoslavia, were there any attempts by the government of Austria or the Austrian armed forces to try to get the United States and other countries to also participate in ratifying the Hague Convention?
At the beginning of the war in Yugoslavia, the NGO, the Austrian Society for the Protection of Cultural Property, in which participate a number of Austrian Austrian's cultural property protection officers. They sent a paper to NATO and also to the US president to take care of that cultural property in the area. We didn't really get an answer, but just a little bit later, we found a report in a newspaper in which the former President Clinton declared by the chance of the 200-year anniversary of the United States that year for the year of cultural property protection. And we wrote a letter to Mrs. Clinton to encourage the president to join the Hague Convention, and we were very surprised. We got an answer that had already been done, but Congress didn't rejected how can I say? The proposal. So we regret this because the United States would be a very important partner in the convention, and a lot of things would change if they
were to ratify.
They will ratify the convention. We hope now, as we have heard, the United Kingdom has ratified the convention just recently, and we hope that this will start a new movement in that activities.
Can you talk a little bit about what the obligations of an actual country are in terms of protecting its cultural property?
We divide into two parts, in a civil part and in a military part. Usually the main actor in that game is the civil part, protection. In our country, in Austria, this is within the responsibility of our monument department in the Ministry of Culture. They select and denominate the objects in a general register. And from that general register, there is a separate register made which refers or which selects or denominates the objects which are under protection of the Hague Convention. For example, I have one of those registers. These are two catalogs which include the cultural objects of the Austrian federal province of Lower Austria. But I have to make a commentary to that. This is a work which was done in the 60s and 70s, and we did a little bit too much. Compared with the international community, or our neighbor countries or others, the register are too big. We think that in the future, to make it equal to others, we have to reduce it minimum at 80%. The reason, there are different reasons. One of those is that if you make such a register in a country like ours, the army is not anymore able to move because on every step you are on a cultural property. And this makes national defense more or less impossible. So this should be, therefore we wish very much to find international cooperation to create international standards, what we understand of cultural property, what should be under protection. This is one of our efforts in the Ministry of Culture to do in the future, to cooperate with others, and also to have feedback how it works or how it should work.
They're going to kick us out in 2 minutes, so if you could quickly
The sign.
explain what blue shielding is, what blue shielding is,
Yeah.
and what that involves.
Uh,
And if you like, you can tell the
You can
story
Yeah.
quickly about
hold it if you want.
the blue shield.
yeah, that one.
Yeah,
Um,
because they're about to kick us out.
one of the,
Hold on a second. Why don't you take it in your hand?
yeah,
Yeah.
this is one of the symbol. This is the symbol of the Hague Convention, the blue shield, which is in the original size and which is already to be used in Austria. We have this. This is of paper. This is I would say, or was a so-called alarm symbol prepared for immediate use. Usually they are made of metal, and we had a system. We changed this now. In the future, it will be completely different, even referring to the second protocol, because there is a new regime of, as you know, the enhanced protection, which makes necessary to make a revised edition of the catalogs and of the registers. And also we think that we change maybe the size or the form of the symbol. We send this, we have a regime of 4 categories, or we had a regime of 4 categories, A, B, C, D. And we will reduce this now, that it means A, most important of international importance, B, let me say national, C, regional, and D, the rest. And from A to C, the ministry sent the symbol and the sign to the object or to the holders of cultural property. D could ask for it, and they also got it. They prepared also for cases of crisis an identity card, which could be given to people who work in that field, let me say transport of cultural property, and that armbinds. These are precautionary measures of the Ministry of Culture, partly in cooperation with the armed forces. Another activity was to make such cultural property maps. For example, this is one of the famous Austrian Danube region at Krems and Dürnstein. This is one of the reasons why we ask very much for, or look very much for international cooperation, because Austria has cultural property maps, Germany also has, and Switzerland. But we, for example, have completely different systems. We need different map signs, we have different sizes, and this is not an efficient system for international cooperation in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.